Hey everyone. Abe's internet's gone down. So it might just be 3 of us to start because unfortunately Nadian already AFK. So we'll be going live in a minute or two. Promise.
Hey, I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Just finished my second review for the site, so feeling pretty good about that. But technically, the first thing I missed the embargo on. Technically, the other ones were tight. One was 2 minutes until, but uh, Jesse, you're not muted, are you? God, yeah, you're muted.
Hold on. Not muted. Just had to unplug and replug so OBS picked it up again because OBS sucks. Hello, everyone. Welcome to OBS Sucks. I'm OBS Sucks. Joining me is yes, OBS Sucks, and also OBS Sucks. They've said hello. Now I will say hello. I don't normally host, but Abe, his one bad mother, his internet went down literally right as the show was about to start because we're in America, which is pretty much a third world country when it comes to the ISP. Dan, unfortunately, works at a government lab where they now have a vaccine mandate. A lot of MAGA heads all said no vaccine for us, and so he's stuck working overtime or else he would love to be here. So everyone thank Dan for all the hard work he does and for not getting fired from his job for being an idiot. And welcome to You Had Me at Halo. It's a Halo podcast brought to you by XboxEra. That's it. And Halo's really good. That's why we do it, because we all really love it. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
What happened?
The jig is up.
Oh, no. Oh, damn it. I got to put your webcam back on. There you go.
We can hear you.
Man, you were sleeping.
Right.
Jesse's grasp for power just slipped away from him.
Well, I mean, I can still literally do this at any point. Just blap.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
it's going to be just the 4 of us today, though. Cause
Hey, look here. Hey, look.
That's
OBS
nice.
decided to resize you for no reason. See? OBS sucks. I wasn't lying. How are you doing, one bad mother? Do you love your internet?
No. I've been swearing. I'm trying to calm down right now. Are we on live right now, by the way?
We are. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, great. Well, so are you introducing us then?
Yeah, I've already done the other two.
Oh,
And
all right. Well, I'm
and
glad
everyone
I
knows
come
me
in here.
because I just stream way too much, so most people probably are already really sick of me. And we'll all be back tomorrow for even more streaming over on the Twitch channel. But yes, Abe, go.
Oh, okay. Well, I have no idea where we're at. But
We
hey,
literally
everybody-
just started.
Everybody, thank you for waiting for a moment. So, welcome to episode number 28 of You Had Me at Halo, where we talk about one of gaming's most storied franchises. And today we're on the precipice of our first hands-on experience with a proper big team battle mode. And I would say it's been about 9 years since we've had our hands on a proper developer-made map for big team battle. So this is a real exciting time. So we're in pregame, and everybody get your hot dogs on the grill, grab a beer. I think I already needed some shots to get going. We're going to do our pregame talk. And what we're going to focus on is we're going to talk a lot about what we felt last week. It was our first time going against other humans in this tech preview, at least for an extended period of time.
Mhm.
And then we're going to talk about some of the things that we're looking forward to. But before I do, did you already introduce everybody, Jesse?
I did. It's pretty much just yourself left.
Oh, it's just me. Well,
I didn't call any of us
Hey.
Spartans, so don't call yourself a
Oh.
Spartan.
Oh, well, okay. You're lame.
See, I had this for you, Mike. I really just need people to see that it went because you weren't. Yeah. So
My goodness.
Oh, that's
Alright.
great. That is wonderful.
I couldn't hold it back anymore.
So let's go ahead and get started. I think a good way to do this will just be, I'm going to leave this a little bit more open than usual. Usually we have a set topic list, but there's so many things I think to cover. We could probably do a 5-hour show. We won't. Eventually, my bladder wouldn't last that long. But I do want to go ahead and go around the table and really kind of hear from you guys, like what is like the thing that stuck out to you the most? We'll kind of let you start off some of the topics. So, Mike, I'm going to start with you. Like, what's the number one thing that really stood out to you last week with the tech preview against the humans?
How good? I mean, really, how good it felt again. And then on top of that, like, there wasn't lag issues. Just how solid it was. Like it was solid. Yeah, there were bugs. Some of them funny, some not so funny, like the random or the repeat melee glitch.
Yeah, the BHP.
That was annoying when you ran into that. But yeah, just how solid it was, and considering how, I don't want to say broken, but how buggy that hour of PvP they had a month ago or 2 months ago,
Mhm.
and then considering how solid this was, it just the demo came, or the build or the what do you call it, the game has come a lot, a long way in that short time, I'd say. So yeah, it's that, and I think it looked better too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Yeah,
can't pinpoint it without doing like an A/B, but it
So you're the team's graphics guy. You're the tech guy, I guess. And did you get a chance to? I mean, obviously, as you learned on Twitter, all we really were doing the whole weekend was staring at the walls and the floor. So I want to really know, after spending that much, all those hours looking at the floor, what were some things that really stood out to you?
The texture work mainly. Like I love the material and texture work, and the stuff that we did see over the weekend, like the decal, the damage decal, where you're shooting it off vehicles and stuff like that. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to check out with the last PvP map. I keep forgetting the name. I'm sorry, but
Behemoth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I was looking forward to that all weekend because I knew it was going to have vehicles, and I wanted to know how the damage was dealt, and also how the damage affected handling, because they talked about that in a blog post, and we haven't seen that since like Bungie started to attempt that with Halo 2, but then I believe they took it out, where it was basically
Cosmetic.
it was cosmetic, until it blew up. And so all of those decals, those little details with how your Warthog or Mongoose or Ghost or any of that reacted to damage. And I just, speaking of the Warthog, I love how that thing just goes. I love it. It is a mean little machine, and it just, So.
Oh, you mean the Mongoose?
No, the Warthog. Like I thought it had a really quick.
Yeah, the Warthog feels fast, but I was shocked. The Mongoose is a maniac, but you can still control it pretty well. Like the handling is very different in a way that even someone who sucks at it like Mort might actually enjoy this time.
So graphically, it's not like it's more than solid. Like texture, material wise, amazing. Like here's the thing. Halo has always been about the minute details. Like it's got the scope where you have your skybox, and then your large environments and everything like that. But then also it's also about the minute detail, where you have to kind of just like step aside and take a look at, I guess. Like it's something that's easy to miss in the middle of a firefight.
Yeah.
And this definitely has it in spades. And I'd say this has it much more so than Halo 4 and Halo 5. Like much more. Like it's they like, and especially like even considering what they've gotten out of the Xbox One coming from Halo 5. Like I'm not concerned at all about the graphics. They look great.
Well, that's the interesting thing too, Mike, because what was interesting to me was like the balance between they made the graphics look cleaner, if that makes sense, but yet more detailed. And I think that's a very difficult balance to pull off. Like if you get up close to some of these things, the attention to detail, and that's the one thing I noticed that from the people that were looking at the floors and sharing the shots online, which we had in the forum some really nice details on the weapons, on the really in the environments, like just really minor things that looks like they really went to town on it. But beside that, it's still, to me, it was overall felt clean. It didn't feel like there was too much of anything in your face, right? Like from an artistic standpoint, it felt like they really balanced that well. But I want to kind of hear from everybody else about the graphics. So we'll start there, because we know that was for all the criticisms that people got sharing those shots. We know that's the number one criticism that came out of last year's demo, right? That 2020 demo. It was all about the graphics, and so I think it is fair, to really delve into that and to really be taken back, because I really still wasn't. My hopes were not that. For me in Halo, like the graphics aren't the most important thing, but I was still impressed. What were some of you guys' thoughts on it? Was there anything that like stood out to you, either artistically or technically from the graphical standpoint? Jesse?
It pretty much just started matching what you remember the original Discover Hope, and I remember Digital Foundry going over it and just saying, like this level of texture detail isn't normal. It's like it's over the top. It's very next gen in a way. And it feels like they have lived up to that now. Because I know, like, you go back to the original reveal with the Warthog shot, and you go back to Discover Hope, And honestly, I could see the campaign, like in the actual final
Yep.
polished up form, matching or surpassing those, which shows just how far behind it was last year and why it really did need that long delay, because it would have been much better than the E3 demo, but it wouldn't have been like this. I don't think. There's no way.
Yeah.
They've talked about in the blog post, like they had a large section of the blog post dedicated to just how hard it's been to work from home. Like it's been incredibly difficult to try and have any decent workflow. They're still not back to normal in that sense. They're not even close. So like to see that, yeah, it was just going to take this much longer to get where they wanted to graphically and everything. It was worth it, and it's freaking gorgeous. I mean, like the concept art of Behemoth, and then you go to that part of Behemoth and look, and it looks exactly like it, but obviously better because it's all super high detailed renders, and the skyboxes are incredible. Like, yeah, I'm really excited to see what the campaign spaces look like, not only at launch, but with the expansions and DLCs they add over time.
So what about those? I mean, those are some really good points. You know, and especially like, yeah. What's up?
I said, you bet your ass they are.
You know, I mean, it is fair to call that out too, right? Like they have had to overcome a lot of things to get to where they're at right now.
The whole industry, really. People people want to dismiss it, but it's the truth.
Well, I mean, we've seen it with Battlefield and Call of Duty, right? Like that, like compared to some of the things we've seen from those tests, this is like another generation ahead of it.
Very interested to see what Battlefield's like next week.
Yeah. I was somebody really looking forward to Battlefield as well. So I mean that, you know, seeing how much that struggled last time was, you know, was kind of I was taken back by that. And there's not a lot of other big AAA games coming out this fall, so that's something to keep in mind. So what about you, man? What did you kind of see from the
graphically?
Yeah.
Honestly, graphically, I mean, it looks great. Of course, it looks great. The map that's currently playing, what's this? Power line, recharge, right? Yeah. The lighting in this map looks so good. Behemoth obviously looks amazing too, but the small thing I noticed was, you guys remember when they first revealed the armor coatings, like way back, was that like a year and a half ago now or something, and people are like, it looks so plasticky, it looks so fake, there's no grime, there's no dirt on it. And then you see the match starts, your Spartan looks pretty clean, you know what I mean, he's wearing the armor. The match ends, and there's dents, there's dirt, there's pieces like that, and right away I noticed that. I'm like, that is cool, you know, like that sticks out to me, and that's kind of like symbolic in a way for everything else, right? This is just one aspect of it, and they clearly put a lot of time and effort into these small little details, and it's going to show more, especially in the campaign. I feel like it's going to really shine through, you know?
To touch on real quick, like what Jesse was talking about with like the what do you call it, the skybox and everything. Did you guys see the comparison between the concept art and the like in-game screenshot of Behemoth?
Yeah.
That was amazing. And then like what Ursula was talking about with like recharge, I didn't even think about it until I was looking over at the footage. Like one of those little details, not to nerd out, but like SSR, like screen space reflections, is something easy to like not get right, like have it like really a lot of clipping and stuff like that, but it just looks really, really solid. Like everything that is in it, all the graphical effects in it are just really proficient and not like overly done. Like they're like deliberately used. And I cannot express how excited I am to see the campaign, especially like what Jesse was talking about with the Discover Hope trailer. I think your glove texture and stuff looks better now than back then, because you do have those scuff marks, and you do see like the wear and tear in the stitching of the like the leather of your gloves. Like there's just these little minute details that are just I can go on and on. Oh, we lost Ursula.
Oh, there's well. At least now I'm not the only one with chipmunks chewing on internet wires. So I mean, it's good to know. Is everybody else still here?
There, good? He's back, right. But he's now he looks different and meaner. I don't have a sleeping one for him. Okay.
Well, we'll keep going. No, Mike. I think going back to the attention to detail. I think one of the things that really kind of connecting that, because again, I obviously all things being equal, better graphics are better. But I've always been somebody who's been a proponent of Halo using the resources for other things in the game. But really, one of the most encouraging things is that attention to detail, because a lot of times that if that becomes that sort of focus for graphics, it does translate to a lot of other things, right? And you saw that with some of the physics, some of the like when they were shooting the vehicle, like you mentioned, and overall, to me, I think they were able to be impressive without without being as messy as they were. For me, I was not a fan of Halo 4 as much as it was impressive technically. To me, it didn't feel Halo enough in terms of the art style. So I feel like they're getting back to that classic style. It's very clean. Everybody kind of really stands out. It's just really easy to see everything in the environments. There's just not a lot of, to me, there's just not a lot of clutter. Spartans don't get lost in all a lot of stuff going on. So it was good in that way.
I will say one point of criticism. I'm not a fan of the explosions. And it's weird because like they look very orange. And I thought this all the way back with the demo last year, but just for whatever reason, I'm not a fan of the explosions. But it's weird because I broke it down frame by frame because I was just nerding out and analyzing over the game, and they look good when they're not so much in motion, like when you actually stop and look at it. But like the way that they have it composed and lit and everything just does not. I don't know. I wish they would kind of darken, make it a bit more gritty, have some like debris and stuff in the air. Kind of like Halo 1. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was like that plume of smoke and dust, or not dust, that like debris and dirt that kind of fell down after you threw a grenade.
Yeah.
And something like that. I mean, that's been a criticism of mine with almost every Halo since Halo 1. But
yeah, some of the graphics or some of the explosions are a little bit cartoony, but I guess I don't know. This is probably going to be more of a preference thing. I think I do like the overly bright. I don't know. It's like taking advantage of HDR, and taking advantage of I think it kind of stands out. I don't know. To me, I thought it still looked impressive, but you're right. I think it does lend itself to be a little bit more cartoony than what you're describing. Mike, are you still there? You're frozen on the screen.
Yeah, I got kicked out of the Skype call
also
right
back.
as soon as Ursula joined.
Oh, seriously?
I think.
All right. My Skype froze. I guess people joining mid-call, not great. Let me open Skype back up. Hey guys, how you doing? I'm going to talk now. So I think Halo Infinite is great. I think it feels great. Mike, you can't say anything against me. None of you can say anything against me. Let me click join call and you should all pop back up. Join. Yay, technology. All right, let's watch all this.
Hey.
Why the fuck did it put Mike where Abe goes?
Hey.
What is up with OBS?
Yeah, chat. We appreciate you bearing with our.
Look at how big Abe is, and he moved over to where Mike goes. What the fuck?
Yeah, I think so. We're all having internet issues today. This is a weird day.
No, my Skype. No, it just Skype froze for me because everyone kept dropping in and out, and the call dropped, so I had to rejoin.
No.
Oh, I see you move now.
Yep. Now I've resized. Yeah. OBS is really weird.
What did I miss? More graphical talk?
This is ridiculous. I think we're being invaded by the Covenant right now. That's probably what's going on.
So it's considering Mike webcam as Abe and Abe is Mike. I do not know why it's doing that, but whatever. It just swapped them.
YouTube.
Hey, look, it resized me again.
Consider leaving Skype, maybe.
Yeah. We'll have to work this out behind the scenes.
It's normally. It's been fine for 27 episodes. It's just.
Yeah, fair enough. What's next? I mean, it is a podcast, so they can just listen to us while you work.
Yeah. So
I got it all fixed.
Kick it over to you.
Yeah.
So what was the number one thing? So obviously Mike talked a lot about the graphics.
Yes.
What's some of the things that after you left the weekend, what was the number one thing that really stood out to you?
So the one thing that, or the most memorable moment I had during the test was a CTF game on Behemoth, or how would you pronounce it, man? Bahamut. There you go. Let's do a different dragon god. Anyways, I played a CTF game on there, and it went to sudden death. And it got pretty intense. We lost a teammate. They lost a teammate. It was 3v3.
Oh, they must have been on Skype.
Seriously, right? And what's funny is the reason why it stuck out to me so much is because it was a direct contrast because I had played Slayer on that same map like a few minutes ago, right? And Slayer, I like Slayer, of course, everyone does, but the few times I got objective-based game mode, Stronghold, CTF, it just kind of felt better. It felt like the maps were designed more towards actually utilizing all the materials for these maps. Like, for example, in Behemoth, the Mongoose is completely useless in a Slayer match. What are you going to do? Go from one side to the other fast? Like, it's not... You can try running people over with the Mongoose. It's not much. In Capture the Flag, it's suddenly this really important vehicle that you need to, obtain, right? And the cool thing with the map is the vehicles don't spawn on your side. They spawn in the center. So they're considered like power weapons, right? In that aspect, you got to fight for them, obtain them, and use them. But basically, what stuck out to me was how different the map felt, even though it was still the same. I mean, still Halo, right? And how much it felt like it clicked. Like it was clearly designed for objective-based game modes. And I'm pretty excited to see these big team battle maps and see how well they click and whatever the heck we're getting here. You know, what is it? Ultimate control, right? Or total control? Something
for the
control.
big team. Yeah, I don't know, for the big team.
Domination or something.
It was something control where basically the only way you score points is if you control all 3 points at once. Rather than having the majority, right? And it's a big team battle exclusive game mode, and I'm really curious to see how that'll work on whatever maps they throw at us.
It's just the one, I think they said, right, this weekend?
That's the impression I got. I was surprised. Idiot me. I didn't realize that they're still also doing arena for this second flight.
It's the exact same build. They're just unlocking that one big team battle mode and map.
Yeah.
So hopefully be able to get into custom games still works, because I want to do that.
So you made some good points though. So like with the capture the flag, and I'm usually not somebody who plays as much capture the flag, but I will say this. So I've mentioned before on the show, I've been a huge Halo 5 multiplayer guy. Put 2,000 plus hours in it. But the interesting thing that kind of stood out to me after playing some of the games over the weekend, and then also like seeing some of the videos people were putting on Twitter with the grappling the flags and throwing them, and just some of the acrobats people were doing in the environments, was just how much more dynamic this version of Halo is. As much as I was a fan of previous Halo for how it felt and just kind of how fair it was in a competitive style, this it almost now you go back to it, it feels flat compared to what we played. Like it feels really flat. It feels like there's not a lot of diversity. And like if you were watching other people, other than like watching somebody really, really good, you're not going to get as much. I think it's not as fun, to like watch some other teams play. Whereas this, I found myself entertained just kind of watching what different people were trying to do. With the environments and yeah, to your point, when you start bringing in some of these other elements, and I have to overuse the word sandbox every time we have a show. Sandbox. That for Halo, that's like, that's always the key. And when you put it in like a capture of the flag, suddenly now when you have vehicles on the maps, and now you have different ways to counter them. I know there was a lot of complaints about the fact that the plasma pistol no longer disables vehicles, but there's so many other ways to counter them now. You got a grapple shot that you can jack people with. You got the repulsor, the skewer basically.
The electric weapons seem really strong against vehicles.
Yes.
The banished ones.
Yeah. Overall, it's not like this one thing is the counter. There's a lot of different ways now you can counter that, and even getting in a vehicle, you're not overpowering, the
repulsor.
The way you would.
So good.
Yeah. Though admittingly, I feel like people aren't used to the ghost or something, because the first time I got into a ghost, I think I got like 7 splatters. Like they just didn't see me coming. I'm just, hey, I'm right here. Whoop, dead.
And the best thing about the ghost, the red flames coming out of it look really awesome, like that orangey red.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or does it feel heavier? Like, it doesn't feel as floaty as it did. Like,
Yeah, I think the
past.
banished stuff generally tends to be very plodding and fast, but not right at the
materialistic,
start. Like you got to ramp up to get that speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some little bit differences in the way things are handled. I couldn't pinpoint that. It's like almost like we're going to have to spend some more time with vehicles to really get that feel. But yeah, they were slightly different. Like we said, there's a little bit more physics to it. But Jesse, like, what was some of your other thoughts about like the sandbox element? You mentioned like repulsor. Did you get a chance to use that a lot, or
I ended up doing? It'll probably pop up during my playlist here, but I played a lot of Behemoth training because I kept having no luck getting it in the rotation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot with the grappling hook, doing the Spider-Man thing, having infinite, just thinking about how that's going to be in the. Because there have been teases and potential like leaky things about how you'll have upgrades in the campaign. Like there was a talk, like, I have no idea what they're going to be, just that there might be like side quests that give extra things to your grapple shot. And I really hope one of them is just like more charges or something, so I can start swinging like a goddamn maniac. Because man, that thing feels the best I've ever felt using a grappling hook in anything. It's the most perfect physics, like, for just, I want to go here and do this, and every time I try it, it feels right, and I don't have to hook on to specific areas like I did in Titanfall, where it's like you had a square on each part of the environment it would hook on, and then you just pulled straight in. Like the physics behind everything on this, and the fact that it works on even down to a base Xbox One, it's just ridiculously impressive. Their scalability that they've talked about for a long time. If this is like this and Forza Horizon are like the first fruits of that, then I'm very impressed.
Did the grapple shot work the same way on the Xbox One? I never even asked anybody.
Yeah, it's pretty much the exact same thing, just running, appreciably lower resolution and half the frame rate.
Oh yeah, man! I watched my brother playing the Xbox One, and I'm like, dude, just play my Xbox, please. What are you doing to yourself?
Like, just get a Series S if you can. They're generally in stock in most places, and it'll be 50 times the experience.
I was surprised how solid I knew it was going to have a 60 frame mode. I assumed it would, considering the 1X version also had performance and quality modes in the last flight. But yeah, it's solid. Like, it's really no, the 1X.
The 1X, yeah.
Oh, the 1X.
Yeah, I imagine the quality is only for multiplayer. I don't know that, or think they'll be able to hit it for campaign, unless But in multiplayer.
And that makes more sense, because we've even talked about in the past where, if you want to have 60 frames on last gen for the multiplayer, but I think we all have said in the past we hope the target 30 for the campaign, just for that, So seems like they're definitely going with that.
So Jesse, I want to ask you real quick, because you were talking about the Titanfall difference, and I only played a little bit of Titanfall too. I didn't play a ton of it. Did you get a chance to play a lot of it, where you had a pretty good feel?
Played way too much. I reviewed it for the site too.
Oh, okay, cool. So I wanted you to kind of dive into that a little bit more, because one of the things when it was first revealed that Halo Infinite was going to have a grapple hook in it, obviously you could predict some of the responses, like, oh, that's not innovative, you're just copying everybody else and things like that. So kind of speak to like the differences that you kind of felt between that and Titanfall 2, a little bit more. Also, I mean, I can't think of anything else other than Titanfall 2 that's really
Battlefield 2042 is going to have a grappling hook, but
Apex
it's a very Apex has got theirs with the one character, Robot Man.
Robot support dude, yeah.
Okay. The one in Titanfall was very straight line. It went very far and then pulled you very fast toward. It was mainly for like rodeoing Titans, or for continuing your speed when you were sliding. The one in Apex feels good, not great. I always thought it was okay, but I felt like I missed where I wanted to go way more than I did with the one in Infinite, which just feels like it is always going exactly where I want. It's got that little yellow indicator, so I know I can use it and it's going to hit, which is super useful. I feel like I can control when I'm going like sideways, and I've got sideways momentum. So even on this gigantic metal man, I still feel a little nimble. And like if you look at like the Battlefield 2042 one, it is very much a real life. I'm shooting a hook, it hooks on, and then it's like this long bungee swing almost.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
so they're going the more realistic route. Titanfall was the very it hooks onto these specific parts of these textures and then pulls you directly at them. It felt good. It was really fun to use, but the Halo one is like the perfect. I am flying exactly where I want to. The physics all feel really good. Like pretty much all the physics in that game feel really good right now. So I am dying to see what it's like in the campaign because it will. You always have it, so it means there's going to be way more verticality than we're used to. Also, I don't think you take fall damage because I went as high as I could on the map and fell down, and I did not die.
Huh, nice.
Unless you fall off the map, then you're...
Yeah, but like I got up to the very top, and it was like saying, you got 1 second left or we'll kill you. And I went down, I went all the way like 200 feet, and just, I'm fine.
I wonder if that remains in the campaign too.
It'd be nice.
That'd be really nice, yeah.
It would really encourage exploration in a way.
And experimentation. Like if you're able to jump off a cliff and like jump, surprise a bunch of brutes and stuff. But yeah, the momentum and stuff, like the way that they convey momentum and motion and stuff, like locomotion, that I can't agree with Jesse anymore. And then, like, speaking of Titanfall, it's almost like Titanfall 1 was probably closer to Infinite than because Titanfall 2, they made it more like, I don't know, like what Jesse's saying, like they just pull you in. There was less
it was so much about rodeoing Titans that it was just like get to that Titan as fast as you can.
Yeah, I mean, the word that kind of comes to my mind, and it's probably the second most overused word other than sandbox, is the fact that it's dynamic. So, I always got to overuse a couple of things. But no, I really do think, again, kind of going back to what makes this Halo kind of go back to feeling a little bit more classic in terms of just the differences in the experiences and the interesting videos we're seeing now. I mentioned on Twitter that I thought the grapple shot and the repulsor feel to me like the two best additions into the sandbox since going all the way back to the battle rifle. Really, I can't think of anything else that's come since that could have this sort of impact. And
armor lock.
I know. Oh no! Good lord, that's
jetpack.
He's saying good impact.
Yeah, good impact. But and this goes to the attention to detail. Like when we're talking about the graphics and the detail, like even with the grapple shot, like the fact that you, when you pull yourself towards something, depending on the angle, it's you're gonna move past it, right? Like you're starting now to play with physics and like, okay, if I grapple it from this angle, I can shoot up there.
And you can stop the grapple, right? You don't got to keep it going the whole way. You can kind of control like your jump. Yeah. It's really cool. It's gonna require some practice, but
which is nice. It's got there's just a lot to it. It's not super simple. It isn't just like shoot it this way. You're gonna go straight in the straight line and clamber up or whatever. You're like. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
It's easy enough to pick up and play and use, but there's a layer of depth there so that like, you can keep experimenting and like figuring out the best ways, or just it adds a level of dynamic like nature to already like a nice sandbox.
I don't know how that word became overused, but anyways, you're making me self-conscious, like Travis calling it out. So the grapple shot, and I guess so. This takes me to like for mine, one of the things that really stood out to me, and this might even sound boring to some people, but I do think this is maybe one of the most important additions, especially for this game that's going to be free to play, where they don't want to scare people off right off the bat, right? Because we know for all of us who were playing PvP, we know there's a lot of sweaty people in there that were really, really good. I thought, I thought I was decent, but holy smokes! I mean, some of the people we're going against are just, I feel like all the champions came out and we got matched up against them sometimes. So, what really stood out to me was the training mode, and
that's actually what I'm playing right now in the clip. It was really fun to learn stuff in that mode.
Yeah, and you got so many different settings in there. It's actually fun to use, right? It's not just like boring. You can change your settings for the bot AI, whether you want them shooting back at you, whether you want to be able to be killed or not be killed. So I wanted to practice with a sniper because it is the one weapon that I always felt like I was underskilled with, compared to like everybody else in my brackets. And so just setting it on no death and just trying to get better at at shooting these things that are moving, and then you turn on the gun, or let them shoot back at you, and then practice with that. And just those opportunities, I think what it's going to do, it's really going to allow new people to come in here and feel comfortable playing it. And then even if they're not comfortable going against humans right away, playing the bots is still not that bad. It still feels like campaign. In a way.
They never raised them from recruit, though they did say like eventually it's going to be like you get a mix, you get some recruits, some ODST, some Spartans. Recruits are real easy to kill. You can go like 50-1, 15-0 pretty easy. ODST, solid challenge. I would normally have me and one AI go against 4 ODST. But the freaking Spartan bots in this build are insane.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
They bumped those up noticeably.
Those are not just, they were ODST and ODST last time. Like they weren't really any different.
Yeah.
This time you see why they were saying, oh, you better watch out for them Spartan bots because they are vicious.
So, man, speaking of training mode, I think I might have closed the game. I went to the drill. I picked the sniper. I'm like, let's check the sniper out. I missed 2 entire clips on one target moving and crouching. I'm like, I'm out. I'm clearly not in the Halo mood right now. Halo zone. I cannot play this game. It was great though. It helps out so much,
I do wish that they had the AI drove or used the vehicles. That's one of the first things that I did in
I couldn't get him to go in the car with me.
Yeah. I was like, man, I immediately jumped in the turret, and I was hoping one of them would jump in the driver's seat, and I was thinking to myself, okay, how long is it going to take, or how quickly are they going to drive me off the cliff? But it never happened.
Yeah. That definitely is a miss. I do wonder if that. I'm assuming they're going to be able to do that in the campaign, though. Right?
Yeah. Or even the multiplayer. If they're there to fill a spot, then
I noticed. Did you guys notice if? I noticed only a couple times, but there were times where I joined a match and my teammates were. Actually, no, they weren't. The teammates aren't replaced by bots yet, right?
I don't think so.
What I'm thinking of is I joined a match in progress, which is nice to see. So they do try and fill your match with other people joining in.
Yeah, and I think they mention before too that there was going to be at some point they'll start to mix and match like the different levels of bots that could join in games.
Yeah, that's what Jesse was talking about before.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. And what's going to be interesting about that too is if they over time, if they get a lot of different modes, it's going to give them a lot of, I think, flexibility in terms of some of the modes and things like that, especially if they continue to, evolve these things, because they're collecting data while we're playing, right? And they can use that to continue to improve those. So, yeah, I think that going back to that training mode, to me, the training is almost it sets the bar. And I wonder if that's going to be something that other games can apply, because I look at a game, I'll be honest, like a game like Apex, I never jumped in initially, and then I got some friends that are playing it. I'm like, but then I'm like, I have no clue what to do. Like, if you would have some sort of way to simulate some of the stuff, some of the weapons.
Yeah, because they've got a gun range, so you can get used to how guns feel, but not like an actual match in any way.
Right. Like when you're actually moving around an environment, and we're moving around real maps, right, and getting to play against things that at the very least feel like really good AI in a game, and that is something. So yeah, that to me, like I feel like that could be a differentiator that's maybe being a little bit underrated. But Jesse, I don't know if we asked you, like, what was the number one thing for you that really stood out?
It really would just be the grapple shot, and how using that in PvP just making me dream about how it's going to be in the campaign. It's like I cannot wait to fly around this campaign like an idiot, non-stop.
Yep.
I imagine with just how good everything in the game feels, and I know they did say there were some issues with aiming on controller that were in this build, making it sound like it might not be something that's in the current full dev build, but yeah, this game feels so good that much like the reason I always end up going back and playing Halo 5 is because Halo 5 doesn't have a great story. Some of the levels aren't the best, but just actually playing it is so good. But in this one makes me think, wow, Halo 5 doesn't play that great because this plays so much freaking better. Like, it really is that evolution of the series of always feeling better. But this is a huge jump.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And it's like a balance jump,
Except for aiming down sight, like zooming in for whatever reason, I need to tune in my sensitivity.
That's what they were. I think Sketch tweeted about it. Like, there were known issues with aiming in this build. So
and you can technically change the sensitivity of your zoom sensitivity too. Yeah. Not just normal, which I'm just like, maybe that's too much control, but okay, I'll try it out.
It's nice to have it. It should feel good to begin with, and then you make it feel great instead of it feeling a little off.
Yeah, I think that comes in handy if you're using like a sniper or something like that. You want it to be a little bit.
Snipers that like really obvious where I'm just all over the place.
I couldn't do.
Well, even when you were I think Bloom was active even when you were still zoomed in with the sniper, which was one of the issues with it. People testing it were like, even when you're aimed in, scoped in, there was still a hidden Bloom.
Huh.
So we should be able to expect to see some difference in this build. Is that what
No,
was saying,
it's the exact same. No, this build they're not.
Okay.
Patching this one means they got to run through cert and everything again, so I wouldn't expect that. It's just unlocking things that were already there, as we know from all the custom game leaks.
Yeah, seriously, right?
They did patch this PC version, but I imagine they probably don't have to go through cert.
Yeah, it's way easier to get something in on Steam.
Yeah.
Steam doesn't care.
And I am curious to see how that runs because it had the same like bug or issue where what if I unlock the frame rate, I can get like 80 frames per second, but then the moment I lock it to 60, it would hover around like 55 to 57. And it would make no sense. Like that doesn't make sense. So I'm wondering if this little mini update kind of fixes that.
I was gonna say the worst part of the grapple hook or the grapple shot, whatever it's called, is that it doesn't last forever. You know what I mean? And I swear I couldn't find where it was in every map. So I'm like, I need this thing. Like I used it twice and I want to keep using it.
I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up becoming like a default gear you start with on some modes. And because you can have two pieces of gear, you press the left and the D-pad brings it up, and you can change between either your two grenades or your two equipments. They have that menu in there, so they can do it.
So speaking of gear, one complaint I did have was it didn't make it obvious enough when I picked up gear sometimes. The AI would mention it a few times, but there are times where I'm like, wait, I have a grapple hook this entire time? Like, I don't remember picking it up. I'll be off someone I killed or something, I'd like to be able to know immediately, hey, you picked this up, hey, you have this.
Yeah, there were some times that I was like, oh, I have a grapple shot or repulsor. Speaking about grenades, did you guys notice that the first day or two of the last flight, so the first flight, when you tap on the left on the D-pad, you'd cycle between the two grenades that you're able to hold.
Yeah.
The first day or two, when you hit left, it would then make you hit up, down, left, or right, depending on what grenade that you used. And even when you went into the controls, it showed that like hit left for grenade, and then it had up, down, left, right. Each one had assigned its own grenade. And then it was either the second or third day, they changed it back to how the flight was before, where you just tap once and you switch back and forth between the two that you hold. That leads me to believe that in the multiplayer, you can only hold two different types of grenades, whereas in the campaign, you can hold all four.
Which would be a nice thing to go back to.
Yeah, that's a nice point.
So while we're on the topic of things that could be improved,
OBS, this software sucks. How can we fix it?
Well, besides our internet, besides chipmunks chewing on our internet wires,
we could leave the Raider alone. I'm sorry.
All right, let's talk about that. Well, Sol, you were the one who wanted the change back. Are you happy? Are you happy with what you did to the game?
Honestly, after playing it, I kind of felt like either works. I'm not really beholden to either of them. Yeah, the usual Halo radar system is nice to have, sure, but this time I actually kind of did focus on. I'm wearing headphones. I actually kind of focused on the footsteps aspect, and and like when I see people getting shot, blah blah blah, and I didn't really need the radar that much. You know what I mean?
It is
So
just a toggle on their end. They've got them both in there, and it's just something they can change in a second.
So did anybody really prefer the flight one? Let's take a vote here.
The first flight.
You want me to put up a poll? I'll put up a poll.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, put up a poll.
No, I think for a campaign though, the combat, the radar proximity radar makes more sense. I'd say.
Yeah. No, I totally like classic radar for the campaign. I'm all about it. I thought it hurt the pacing of the matches because there was more camping. There was more, and I'm not I'm not saying that people shouldn't crouch walk. That's part of, that's one of the options and stuff. But like there was more of that, so the pacing slowed down, and there was just so much more camping. Like there was just a lot more camping or crouch walking around the corners and stuff, and it just I didn't notice that with the first flight.
Poll should be up.
Sorry, oh, poll's up, perfect. I would say though that if they do go back to the old radar, if they do go back to the old radar, they need to change it so sprint doesn't make you appear on the radar. That's my only real complaint with the old one, because an 8% movement of increase is not worth you showing up in every single person's proximity radar, combat radar.
But that's what I liked about it. Yeah.
No, but it should be a combat radar. It's when you shoot or when you get shot, or when it should appear.
But then it's not a motion sensor at all.
It's not a motion sensor. That's the whole point, though, right? It's a combat radar. That's what they called it. They call it the combat sensor. That's the name of the radar itself.
Yeah. No, I really like the balance. And I don't mean to cut anybody off, but I guess this is like
yes, you do.
this is my hot button thing. I really think that the first radar I hope that this is just a test, because I think they need to give it more time, because until people start playing against other humans, and that was the problem. We played the first time against bots, so you really don't quite understand what the impact's going to be. I believe the impact when you're playing against humans is that it is going to reduce camping, because, well, when you're sitting in a room, you can't just look at your radar and see who's walking up on you, right? Like you cover everything. So you can look one way, but somebody can come up behind you, and if they're walking, they're going to get you. And so it really, like to Mike's point, it really reduces the camping aspect. I felt that a lot more in Bazaar, especially if you're doing deathmatch.
Especially in some of the rooms.
Because you got those corner rooms. There was a lot of opportunity to. And then like with the whole, I hate that I don't, I think it should stay with the running, even if they reverted back, because it's like a risk versus reward thing. Like
but if there's an 8% increase worth the reward, that's what I'm saying, right? Is an 8% increase enough of a reward worth the risk?
But if it means you running from a grenade, and you have to consider that risk versus reward, because radar or not, if there's a grenade thrown at my feet, I'm going to try to run away from it, not just walk away from it. So like, those are things that I think heighten the tension of those scenarios. And, and so, because, that the moment you run from that corner or that grenade or whatever situation you're in, you're going to flash up on the radar for everyone around you.
Yeah.
And so that means that you have to like be ready to, in case someone isn't aware that you're there, but now they are, and then they're going to try to engage you.
I just worry it'll slow the pace of the game down if it basically makes it so you never sprint unless you have to. You know what I mean?
Because the other one makes it so that you crouch walk and are slower more often.
No, I'm comparing the same radar with sprinting showing up and the same radar without sprinting showing up. Those are the two I'm comparing.
It must be. I mean, maybe at the pro level where people remember, but I think on the whole, most people are. You see stuff coming and you just try and run to it real quick, and you're not always thinking, "Oh Christ, if I freaking do this, I'm going to be on the radar."
I think regardless of the new or old radar, there's still reasons to sprint. Where if you're trying to beat someone to the punch for a weapon, or especially if you got a gravity hammer, I mean, you're running around and swinging that, especially because of the slow swinging speed of that. You're going to want to close that gap as fast as you can. So, I get what you're saying. I get where you're coming at with it, but you're wrong. No,
I do agree.
I respectfully disagree.
As you get older, you learn a little bit more about. No, I'm just kidding. But I think to So I get what you're thinking, because I mean, I think like intuitively you just think, okay, if I'm sprinting more often, it's going to be a faster paced game. But I actually, to Mike's point, I believe the pacing is going to be better with the first radar, because
I agree with that, yeah.
Because again, because it's like, yeah, maybe people are at their top speed less, but they're also crouching less, right?
Yes.
And they're stopped less. They're constantly moving towards the action in some way, because there's not a risk if, like, even if I'm by myself, if I spawn, like, I remember even thinking about that. I know it was against bots, but like when I respawn, I could start walking right towards the, like, maybe taking a different angle without worrying about, like without worrying about showing up on the radar. You feel like you could scout more. You can just kind of head right towards the action. You don't have to wait for your teammates, things like that. I think it makes you just a little bit more just assertive in general to kind of try different angles. You can go around and flank people easier. I think it really opens up a lot more dynamic game. There goes again. I'll use a thesaurus. I'll
Dynamic
use my
sandboxes.
I will come up with a bunch of words.
Toolbox.
Before we come something.
I do agree though. Crouch walking sucks. I actually did it this last build because I'm like, hey, let me see how it works. I hate it. I really don't like it. You're right. It slows the pace of the game down.
It's part of the game, but it's boring, right?
Yeah,
like,
I agree 100% to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just think that you're not going to wait into a room if you think somebody can come up behind you. It's a lot harder to sit in a room like that and just be ducking, right? So, and then the other aspect of it is I do think people are still going to sprint a plenty amount. Like if you respawn, your teammates are already engaged in battle, and you're going to just run up to them.
Yeah,
you're just going to go at the fastest speed. Also, if you kind of anticipate the enemies are going to be right around the corner, you might sprint and like slide, jump, whatever, because it makes you a lot more nimble at those first few seconds of the engagement, right?
Yeah.
So there is a nice balance. Oh, go ahead.
Plus the fact that your health still recharges while you're sprinting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they really, I
see what
thought
you
they
mean.
had everything really, really well balanced for the first flight.
Yeah.
And because still there's going to be plenty of opportunities or plenty of reasons why you're going to want to run. Like if someone gets the jump on you, I'm going to try to run around the corner so I can get my bearings turned around and try to, throw some grenades as they're turning
And the
that
slide,
corner.
of course.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And even
So
the slide itself has like some balance to it, because when you go into a slide, your momentum dies at the end, and you're kind of stuck in that squatting for a moment, So there's that risk versus reward there, and I think the new radar goes against that whole like design mantra that they had and have a lot of other parts.
I think you guys have convinced me. All right.
Wow.
I think you've got it, because admittingly, crouch walking, it sucked. Admittingly, this is the first time I actually seriously kind of paid attention to how to avoid the radar. Usually I'm just like, hey, we see each other, you see me, let's fight, right? But now that I know there's a way to avoid it, I'm like, yeah, this is boring.
And you know what? And Halo is an arena shooter.
Yeah.
Like the multiplayer is an arena shooter. Those are typically supposed to be faster paced types of shooters and stuff.
I see what you mean. So I guess with Sprint making you show up on the radar, it means Sprint isn't the default mode. It's more so when you need it, you use it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
You move fast enough on your own already. I guess I just have this illusion where it's like, if I'm going from point A to point B, I need to be sprinting because I'm moving faster. Right? I kind of got to train myself to be like, nah, dude, it's not that much faster. Slow down, chill. You're still moving plenty fast.
And you know what? And with the big team battle maps, with them being larger and large enough for 24 players, there's probably going to be more incentive to sprint.
Yeah.
Regardless of how the radar works.
And the radar's not so wide that, I mean, you're not going to show up until you're pretty close to someone anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, that was a good discussion. It doesn't look like we convinced for as much as time as we spent. There's a lot of people in our chat that weren't convinced. So it'll be interesting. There's always been a split in the community, right? Like, and I do think I do want to give 343 credit. Come back to that I do think that for as divided as the community has been, from the classics to the modern to the people that switched over to other games because whatever, it didn't move either time, it didn't move where they wanted it to. I think this is probably as good a job as they could have done, in terms of mitigating the things we're complaining about. There's still things, I've listened to a lot of different other opinions online. There's still, everybody's got their little quirks and things that they prefer. But in general, I feel like this is the most positive I felt the community be. I jumped at a lot of parties, and people were having fun in all of them. It's like, yeah, people would bring up one thing or the radar or something. You know, I think a lot of people I played with were not fans of the change either. But, you know, overall, it just does feel like they've got it. And at least everything is there. So now we know that, you know, they could probably come up with some different modes. Maybe the most competitive mode is the one. Maybe they just take the radar out altogether. Who knows? So, you know, so there's a lot of different things they can still do. Just knowing all these options are there, including, I'm sure everybody here has seen this. I don't know if everybody in our chat has, but there was some leakage in terms of some of the things that are going to be in the game. Mike, you look surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, I have purposely shied away from any and all leaks or potential leaks and stuff. So
okay. So should we shush?
No. I mean, as long as it's not campaign leaking and stuff.
No, it's all it's only multiplayer.
Are we done with like what criticisms? Or
no. You can go ahead if you got something else.
Just one thing real quick. I wish they'd change things about the UI, or I wish they would give options to change the UI or customize it. Like I don't like how the medals are so close to the reticle. To me, it's just when you got things that pop up and you're in the middle of a firefight, just that fraction of a second of your eye just veering to the left ever so slightly. I'm not a fan of that. And I'm also not a fan of the ammo counter and weapon in the bottom right-hand corner. This is the first Halo that it's been like that. And I know it sounds stupid or silly, but if I'm looking up top for my health, it's a lot easier to just glance to the right to keep a check on my weapons or ammo versus diverting my eye to the bottom right. And yeah, it's not like it takes a lot of time to move your eyes around like that. But one, playing Halo as long as we have, for me at least, there's muscle memory with that. And then also, every little fraction of a second can matter or can count.
Yeah.
So I do wish that's one of those things that it seems like they changed just for the sake of change. And you know,
what used to be in the bottom right normally?
Nothing.
Oh, interesting. So now top right's nothing?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think you got a point there, and I do wonder if it's something you would get used to. I am curious. Has anybody seen any explanation for the changes?
I'm wondering if it's because of additional stuff, like information in the campaign. Yeah, that's what I'm like. Because I imagine in the top left-hand corner, maybe it's the top right-hand corner, where they're going to have all the row of all your grenades. Yeah. You know, typically I think that's top left-hand corner.
And you know, it could even be stuff like if you ever played like a BR, you know, it keeps track of how many people are alive or stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
could be things like that in the top right.
Yeah, but even like you know, in the weapon counter, that's very, very minor. The medals, where the medals are to me, that bothers me more. Just push it to the left. Push
Is
it
that
to
where
the left
chat goes? Now that it has chat, it actually has text.
Top right. Yes, chat was top right.
Oh, chat.
See,
yeah, there is one because the guy was calling us out when we were playing on Behemoth, even though he was the worst player on the team.
Isn't that usually the way it is? Usually the person that's the worst is the one who's yelling at everybody for making him the worst. We used to play with the crew. I am getting off topic now, but we used to play. I got to say this. We used to play with I played with the crew for a little bit. Same group of guys all the time and girl and the worst guy in the game would just yell at us for jumping in front of his grenades all the time.
Speaking of, that's a pretty good tangent because I'm not sure how I feel about friendly fire being off for grenades.
Yeah, is that permanent, or was that just for? Is that just for the tech?
I'm not.
I think it might just be for social.
Okay.
Yeah,
that might make sense.
I wasn't sure what I'd think about it at first, but I do like how you pass through each other. That
really?
Yeah.
People have been complaining a lot about
that. Oh yeah.
Oh really? You know what? Like for me, it's kind of give or take, but I'm leaning more towards I'm liking it, just because I mean, like if I'm trying to get away or do something, someone just isn't there ruining my momentum or plan or anything like that. Like it leads to a better flow, I think. But I can see how some people would be bothered by it.
Yeah, the thing with the grenade thing was like, usually I run from any grenade I see. Now I was like, should I run from this one or is this my allies? And I can blow up. Right? So.
I guess that could help on some of those instances where you don't think you should have ran, but you should have, because I've had that too, where
Yeah,
I didn't
fair
know whether or not it was an enemy grenade or not, and I didn't think it was because a second ago I just saw a friend behind
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
but then actually it was an enemy throwing a grenade, and
So I will make that one of my complaints because if it's in social, I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know, if it's just in the casual mode, but I think for competitive, you need to have that. You need to be, you know, careful with your grenade throws and careful with where your teammates are and things like that. I do think that just makes you less spammy and everything else.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I do think based on the mode, like if it's SWAT or something, it probably won't. It'll probably be on team damage and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The
Yeah,
sweatier
so
modes.
But those are probably my only two complaints. That aspect, and then the you know, the radar, and those aren't huge, but you know, I would like to get my way on both of those.
I could not use the commando for the life of me. I don't know why. It felt so good the first build, and then this time I tried using it, and just I got it like 7 times. I died every time without killing anyone.
You need to go into the
too close.
That was my experience the first flight.
Yeah.
practice mode on that.
That's what I'm thinking.
Were you
you
holding
really-
it down full auto or tapping?
No, I was
Like
how
short
can I
control
s-
bursts
Ow.
works
Yeah, there
so
you
much
go.
better.
Yeah,
I was using it too close, I think.
Yeah, so for anybody who's using the commando, you want to you got to perfect the burst
Mm.
based on the distance. If you're up close to somebody, you can just hold down and you
Yeah.
know, kind of slowly go up towards their head. But if you are at a distance, you're going to want to change the bursts timing depending on the distance. All right, cool. So we covered some of the things we don't like. You know, I think something that's going to be interesting, you know, it came to mind, and maybe this is a topic for a different show, but you know, one of the things that was just really jumping out to me, I was starting to think about it, just going from party to party, kind of seeing a lot of that energy coming back, and it's like, all right, this is the new thing right now. Do we think that Halo is back? It's going to compete with the big boys, or is this going to still be in its
Yes.
kind of niche?
Yes, 100%. Like every poll, everything that I've seen on Twitter, huh?
Niche. What?
Oh, it seems like I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna complain about this. It seems like Call of Duty's kind of been the kicking boy this year, and like in a lot, it doesn't matter if it's a Battlefield like trailer or tweet or Call of Duty tweet or a Halo tweet or whatnot. It seems like a lot of the comments, surprisingly, a lot of the comments were, I'm going to play Battlefield and Halo. Like Battlefield and Halo seem to be the two, and I know that's anecdotal and everything like that, but even when there's like a Battlefield type tweet, and there's a lot of people in the replies saying they can't wait for Halo and Battlefield. Like there's no reason to mention Halo there.
Yeah.
But they are. And the fact that it has that kind of mind share, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you, and I've mentioned it a few times, and it does come across as a little bit fanboyish. I get it, because I think people are looking at this like, hey, Halo's been around a while. It's kind of fallen down a little bit. I really think it's being underestimated for 2 reasons. This is the first time that Halo has come back with this sort of dynamic gameplay that's very streamable, right? Like that's the key. Like, you know, again, I'll use the thesaurus next time, but that really continues to be the thing with everything from the grapple shot to the repulsor, all the different kinds of uses you can have, the weapons balancing now. Just, you know, there's just so many different situations that I like. To me, this is the social media, like this outside of a big battle royale. Yeah, this seems like the most streamable thing that I can think of. You know, because it does have a competitive layer to it if you're trying to like learn how to get really good and compete and watch people who are really good play it, but also it has just this casual, it's one of those few games that does both really well, and I think battle royales do for a lot of people as well, but this Halo seems to have its own lane here, and this is the first time it's been free to play. I think with you know, with social media, with sharing, there's a lot of potential here. We'll have to see how it holds, right? But right now it just seems to have a high end streamability, and I think this is going to be really interesting to watch. So
for someone who watches a lot of streaming, it will need something either in the big team battle, or it'll need something to get that the battle royale type game emergent gameplay where it's very different, and it's there are slower periods in it because an arena match is just never stops. Now, big team battle one on a big ass map, you can get a lot more time in between, going between objectives and stuff, and there's time to breathe, talk to your chat. You know, if you're going nonstop, it's really hard to look over except for when you die. And something like a battle royale,
good point.
You're looting, you can keep taking looks over. You know, depending on what you're doing, it's so many more opportunities to be able to go through, you know, and just figure out what's going on, being able how to explain that to your audience, how to be able to the pacing of it. It needs ups and downs, and you don't get that in the arena. So
someone said it really nicely, where it's like it needs a high stakes, slower game mode. Is how they phrased it. It doesn't need to be battle royale necessarily, but it has to be a game mode that has really high highs, and then some relatively normal lows. To be really successful in the streaming audience, because for example, Arena plays amazing. Like it feels so good to play. But I was watching a few streamers play it too, and they were having a great time. But the viewers, like some of them were like, no, switch to this, switch to that, you know, because it's so much fun playing. But I get this
depending on Twitch, you always have a bunch of shitheads that are just yelling at you to play this specific game. They're like watching you play. But I think it'll be successful. It'll definitely be very successfully played. It's not all about streaming. Streaming can really prop up games that had been around for a while, and then all of a sudden they took off because a few people started playing them. Showcases it off to a ton of people, like Among Us or Valheim. Like those games really took off because very popular people played them, and people were like, oh, this looks good. And with Halo, I'm sure they'll get that from the simple fact that it is free to play. You know, it is on Game Pass. It's going to be on Steam day one, which is huge for it. So for all those reasons, it'll definitely have a big boost. But for staying power, it will need something in that battle royale vein. Not necessarily a battle royale game, but in the I need to be able to watch this and not be on the edge of my seat the entire time.
I got you. You need a chance to breathe is kind of what you're saying.
And a chance to interact with the person playing.
Gotcha. Viewer engagement is pretty huge. Like it, and I'm sure Jesse can share similar experiences like this. But in my weekly streams, there are certain games that I don't realize until I'm already in the game, where I was like, oh, I can't engage with the chat nearly as well because there's always like I have to pause the game to really catch up with the chat. And you know, and then that kills the flow of the stream. And so I think that's actually a really good point I didn't think about. But on the kind of flip side, not that it disputes anything that was said, but like one thing that I think is going to be really beneficial in terms of the multiplayer, even in both flights, especially with the second one, because they introduced vehicles and they introduced the repulsor. The amount of clips that flooded Twitter, that again, those just random Halo moments. Like that's the one thing that I think Halo has kind of been missing for a little while. Where there are two games that have always stuck out to me, and I've played pretty much every game of both series, is Battlefield and Halo. And Battlefield has Battlefield moments, and Halo has Halo moments. And Halo, these are the most. This Halo has like the most frequency of those Halo moments in a long while, and just the number of things, especially with the grapple shot and the repulsor, and the skewer, all of those types of things. Britt mentioned it
earlier in the chat. Do you see the clip where they had grenades in their Warthog? They pop the Warthog flying this guy, grapple the Warthog, turn around, and like skewer someone from like a super high angle.
No. That is awesome. Like I saw the one, who was it? Was it Hidden Xperia or someone, where he was getting hijacked, so he boosted off of the cliff. And then once he got
it was
kicked
an
off,
Irish guy, I think.
Midblitz? No, it wasn't Midblitz.
No.
I think a lot of people did it, but
but he, and he turned around and he grapple shot back.
That was a Sekiro moment right there.
Yes, exactly. I don't think it's that impressive, but just it was so invigorating and awesome that in one of the maps or games of Behemoth, I went off the man cannon, I had the grapple shot, and then I grapple shotted down to the ghost right from mid-air, and it was just so awesome to be able to pull off something like that.
Uber Nick, yes.
Thank you. like you need to.
Yeah, there's been a lot of really fun things, but yeah, that's one of the things that's just stood out is the sharing and things like that. Like I don't feel like Halo's been there. I know, like, so we didn't have all the social media stuff back when the classics were there, but there still was on the internet. People would do crazy things with the physics and show those off. And I'm looking forward to talking about this. We won't do this show because this show will run another hour or two if we do. But really, I'm starting to get really excited about the campaign.
Yeah.
And maybe this will transition us into big team battle because I'm just going to tie this in. I'll get mine out of the way first. So tomorrow, when this goes up there, we're going to finally get a taste of the big team battle map, and it's going to be our first time playing big team battle on a proper developer-made map that's not in Forge since we have to go back 9 years, right? To Halo 4, basically.
Wait, every big team battle map in Halo 5 is Forge?
Yeah, it was Forge. Yeah, none of them were. Yeah, none of them were
like 8 of them or something. They were all Forge maps. Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is going to be the first time that you've actually got a true, developer map, which is going. When I look at the map they were showing for this big team battle and the demo a week ago, it looked a little bit like it reminded me a little bit of what they showed overhead for with the campaign, and to me that's going to be one of the things that I'm going to be thinking about as I'm kind of running through the different tunnels, getting up into certain areas, grapple shotting onto things. I don't know if we're going to have a flying vehicle in this. I want to try to grapple shot a flying vehicle like they showed in that video. But, those types of moments, I really am starting to get excited about the potential because of the foundation they have right now, that this could be the best, I think, right now. Like I said, this probably is going to be its own topic later on. I think right now we have a lot of information that says that this should be the best playing campaign. We don't know what the story is like, the progression, side mission, stuff like that. But I think from the moment to moment, that 30 seconds of fun, the thing that Halo's built on, that I think they have that thing nailed probably better than any other Halo, and I think it's going to be exciting, not just for this round of big team battle maps and modes that can come out of this, because there's so many things they can do with what they have right now already in the sandbox, and we know they can keep adding to it. That I think like the sky's the limit in terms of the creativity they can come up with, and I think, Jesse, to your point, at some point they can come up with something, even if it's not a battle royale. There's a lot to play with to come up with different game modes, especially now you got really high quality bots to play against. So let's put those into a diverse set of enemies, and we can take Firefight to the next level at some point, things like that. So very excited, and I know it's somewhat of a tangent, but it is something I keep thinking about as I'm experiencing all the different things you can do with just one item, right? And what is that going to mean when you start to mix and match that with different enemy types and different environments and stuff. So but for you guys, so big team battles coming up, and what's like the thing you guys are really looking forward to that? Anybody want to jump in on that? Number one thing.
Yeah, I'll go in just the maps, honestly. I know some people have disliked some of the maps. It's actually kind of funny. I was seeing discussion amongst the maps. Some people were like, man, I hate this map. This other map's amazing. Someone else was like, I love this map, but this other map I hate. I was like, yeah, I kind of like all of them. I really did. So one thing I'm really looking forward to for Big Team Battle is just the variety in the maps, because I've seen some of the leaked photos, and they got me pretty excited at some of the stuff we're going to see.
Yeah, and to your point, like they're already more diverse than a lot of the ones we played in 5. That was one of their weaknesses, right? Yeah. Behemoth, I think, is going back to that map, was probably the best map that 3-4, my opinion, just my opinion. And it's I haven't had much time in it, but right now it feels like the best map 343's ever done. I'd have to think long and hard. Probably Halo 2's got maps that
remake of Hang 'em High.
Yeah. But I think Halo 2 still got some maps that are still in that all time. But for anything 343's done, I think it really stands out as something that could go in that upper echelon of maps, which is a really good sign.
I need more time with it, but in general, 4v4 with vehicles is just so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, how about you? Like, what are you looking forward to at Big Team Battle?
The bigger player count. Like that was one of the things where, with Halo always being all about scope and everything during the campaign, I was kind of disappointed because I think the largest we got. I know that. What do you call it? In the Halo 5 has 24 players.
Warzone.
Well, yeah, Warzone. But that that I don't know that you had your distractions, let's say, and then you had your different weapons and crap like that. So like a more traditional Halo type of scenario with 24 players. I'm really curious and interested to see how that plays out.
Like Warzone was fun, but it's not big team battle.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
And so
one of the issues I found with Warzone was some of the pacing. But yeah, keep going with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like
so yeah, just how, because what does that mean for the map size? What is it? I do like that how they already share that they're adjusting your equipment for big team battle. So it sounds like you're able to hold and you get more.
Yeah, you get 5 instead of 3 for equipment.
Cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And I think you can. I think they said you can hold more too, because I think you can hold this max at 6 in arena. So does that mean we can get 10 shots in big team? Something
What do you mean
like
hold?
that.
Sorry.
The max you can hold, the max number of times you
oh,
can hold.
yeah,
Because you can stack your equipment.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
You can like walk over more equipment and it stacks the ones you have?
Yeah.
I had no idea. What the heck?
And I'm pretty sure in arena the max, at least for the grapple shot, is 6. And so
so
what
you're
does
saying you
that
can
mean?
be Spider-Man.
Yeah, and when you
Team
pick it
battle.
up once, you get half. So that's why you got 3 in arena when you walked over it, and you're going to get 5 in big team when you walk over it.
Oh, that's interesting. Huh. I don't know. How'd you guys catch this stuff? Because that completely
They wrote it
blew
down
my
on the
head.
blog.
Okay, fair enough.
Mike still reads. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Jack of all trades, master of none. So.
But, no, Mike, you bring up a good point though, because that is what actually probably the thing I'm most curious about, because we're going from 8 to 8, from 8 against 8 to 12 v 12, and we know more players isn't always better, right? I think because even in Halo 5 you could do a war zone where there was no AI and just go against other teams, but there was still something off with the pacing. I think a lot of it was just the map structure, and so I think that seeing how the maps accommodate 12 v 12. What's the spacing? What's the pacing of it? How quickly can you get back into the battle? Those types of things. I think those are going to be the questions, because of, like when you're adding more players, it's not just as simple as, okay, you got more people, there's more chaos, it's more fun. You got to balance all that stuff out. So I'm feeling confident so far, because balance has been something that 343 seems to be getting in the pieces that we've seen so far.
They are years into testing this with what we've seen from people talking about going there and working on it, and it's definitely showing off.
Yeah. So I'm feeling good about it, but that is something else that I think is going to be a good takeaway from what we see this weekend. Jesse, how about you, man? Anything that we didn't mention that you?
Because we briefly talked about all the leaked weapons before, and
yeah.
So
go on that.
So it's more just like they've brought back they brought back some classics, like they brought back the Sentinel beam, but it's very different and super powerful and cool looking, and they've got more. They have more of those electrical weapons, so like there's going to be a real synergy with those. There was a pistol version that kind of looked like Sunshot from Destiny 2, if you know that one. So that goes with the grenades, and then the shock rifle, and there were even more, like that Mangler, which we've already seen, the big brute Magnum pistol from the campaign demo. I'm really interested to see if we get any new weapons in Big Team Battle, and if I don't think they'll put new vehicles, because there have been leaks about potential new vehicles, just names, not what they are, kind of like what we had with the weapons until we saw custom games. But they're definitely going all out, adding in a whole line of banished stuff. No Forerunner stuff. Abe got his wish.
Yes.
No, I've seen like nothing. The one thing that leaked is the scatter shot, which is weird. Just that shotgun. That's the only thing that's listed in the weapon file for multiplayer. But that was it.
Indian Knight has a scatter shot, and that's.
I mean, but listen, if there's not any, if we're not seeing any Promethean weapons.
Because like the heat waves, kind of like they took Promethean tech and put it into something human or banished. It's hard to know and there are more names on things we still haven't seen yet, especially the vehicles. I'm really curious. Do we get any new weapons this weekend in Big Team, and do we get any new vehicles? Like, will the Wasp be in there? Because they've shown the Wasp on that map before. So that's the main thing I'm curious about with Big Team.
I do want to see at least one flying vehicle because I want the opportunity to try to.
They've shown the Banshee. They've shown the Wasp. I'm wondering if they'll be in there at all.
Yeah, that'd be fun to just to see some people pull off the grapple jack from the air, and then maybe, it'd be interesting. And then as a reminder, you get more uses with that thing. So that's the one thing I still struggle with is you pick up the grapple shot. It's like, oh, do I want to use it?
Just use it because you're gonna die fast.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to waste it. It would be that's going to be something. You'll get more uses with that. Those are some good call outs. Anything else you guys want to touch on with the Big Team stuff before we kind of go over to the community questions?
I'm sure we'll bring it up again later, but we are doing a community stream tomorrow night starting around 8:00. We've got roughly 13 signups. There's a chance people can't make it or whatnot. If there's more and everyone shows up and more want to do, maybe we'll just like make a second group that can play together while we're going. But yeah, that'll be 8:00 over on our Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/the XboxEra, starting around 8 p.m. Eastern, US.
That's going to be fun. Getting parties at 12. I'm really looking forward to seeing parties of 12 and seeing what that's going to be like. It's going to be chaotic, but sometimes you just need a little chaos in your life, right?
And I had been wondering, the reason you can get up to 28 in the groups is because you can have 2 teams of 12, and then you can have up to 4 spectators, I guess, for custom matches.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also, people were asking when the flight turns back on. It's supposed to turn back on tonight just for training mode and weapon drills.
Yeah,
it says Thursday evening, so I don't know if it's up yet or not. But
tweet, and he said an hour ago he was checking everything one last time, going through something. After that, we'll open access for Academy. So.
And then matchmaking is 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow for the first 4 hours.
Yeah.
Will we get the Big Team battle map in the Academy? Did they say?
Don't know.
That's a good question.
I don't think they've said.
If the training ground is there, there's no reason to think we wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because that's what they did last weekend. The moment Behemoth unlocked, we were able to access it and be in the training mode.
Will they throw 12 bots in there?
Probably.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Or 23 bots, because
23 bots, yeah, that would be crazy. That'd be interesting to see if they could do that. And if they could do 23 bots in that, then couldn't they do 23 characters on screen? And I don't know.
I imagine that there's going to be some crazy Ford shit that will be very Big Team battle-ish, and that they'll have. They're going to have. They seem really prepared, if anything, from this. Like, you look at custom games. That leak that people were able to get into, the amount of options in there is flipping staggering. You can change almost everything. You can like that radar. You can jump between old and new on as a toggle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, combat and whatever they call
the custom games.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah, and when you start combining some of the weapons you can throw in there. By the way, you can do unlimited use of your equipment, and also amongst that equipment, we know that the jetpacks are going to be back in there, which made some of my buddies, who are Halo 5 buddies.
Yeah.
Oh, jetpack's back, huh?
Yeah, jetpack is back.
Yeah, it's like a thrust. Wait, is it
it's a pickup?
Jetpack or thrust?
You mean jetpack or thrust?
Because
thrust is in there.
Oh.
Thrust is in there.
Very different things.
I hadn't heard jetpack, but thrust is in, and thrust is way more powerful than 5 because it is a pickup. Really good.
Yeah. So that'd be interesting because some of my buddies that have been playing Halo 5 forever were kind of excited to see that be an option. So you can probably make some modes where that everybody wears that stuff.
Halo 5.
or everybody. I can't. Well, this is again going way off topic, but I can't wait to start seeing what happens. 6 months after it launches, if Forge is ready by then, and people start building out environments with unlimited use of grapple shots, and you're just Spider-Manning around with rockets or something. I don't know. It's gonna be.
And they said they'll have their own creations too. So I'm really curious what those will be to start with. Probably something crazy.
And I want to raise some nutty things. Like, it feels really good. You know what I mean?
It does.
You guys have made like my night, because I was talking over the weekend playing the flight, I was talking about how I'm curious about the custom options. Custom
It's
game options.
insane.
Because
Nuck and
like
futz.
Halo 3, they're insane. I think Halo 4 they were pretty good, but I'm not familiar with the options that were there in Halo 5. So I'm like I'm hoping
There's a lot
they
of
nailed
options
that.
in 5. They keep stepping it up. 5's Forge and customization was.
It should
was
tide
really
us
good.
over. Maybe not completely, but it should tide us over until we get the full Forge release.
That's
Because
what
we
I
should
said,
still
yeah.
get a good amount of custom game modes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of see what happens there. And I think depending on the maps, you customize different equipment, things like that. We could have some crazy times.
Like if they have a map of portals, I got the perfect game.
Well, and the thing with Forge is they've got all these bots built in. We've seen it with Battlefield where they're going to have this whole thing where you can program the AI and the bots. I think it's pretty much a guarantee Halo is going to have something similar to that, where you can make combat scenarios and game modes featuring bots. It can even be all PvE. You can make your own firefight type stuff. Like the things I imagine you can do with how they've talked about Forge and how Enormous and White needs so much more time. I'm very, very excited to see what it ends up being in the end.
Have they hinted, mentioned, commented on whether or not firefight's going to be in this?
No.
I don't think that's ever been a topic,
No,
right?
they have not brought
It's
it up
going
at
to
all.
be. It's going to be in this.
It always eventually is somehow, yeah.
It's going to be in this. There's absolutely no doubt that with the tail on this thing, and like we've already talked about the bots and stuff.
Yeah, and the
custom-
seasons are all like they're kind of a soft relaunch. So features like okay, we've got all this good ready to go to start, and then every 3 months we've got something to pull you back in if you've been away for
Halo
a bit.
5 got firefight. Infinite's gonna get firefight.
Well, there's nothing official on the firefight, but they're going to try to. But you have to.
I imagine this game's going to have everything and be huge, and that's why they called it Infinite.
So we'll have to wait for the official announcement. But I think
our guess would be yes.
My gut says it's going to be next level.
Oh, yeah,
But
none of us are insiders, by the way, if anyone's wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
None of us are insider adjacent, even like Nick.
All right, guys. So I think it's time for us to go to the community questions, unless you guys had some other things to talk about. I can go ahead and read them unless one of you guys has it prepped.
I got him up.
Okay, go ahead, Jesse.
All right, from some stupid dickhead named Podrick Payne, whoever that is. Who would ever name yourself after such a small character from a show? Greetings, my steak-tacular band of ODST bots. My question is, should we be concerned with perfect... I'm kidding. My real question is, after playing this past weekend's flight, including the vehicle gameplay on the new arena map Behemoth, do you have any doubt, at the very least, that the gameplay for Infinite's campaign is going to be tremendous? I don't.
Yeah.
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I didn't really have much doubt after last year's demo. Like the gameplay was the thing that people spoke positively about.
Uh,
It was the graphics and like the rough look of it, but the gameplay just always looked good. And
Well,
it
and
feels
even
better
that-
than it looks.
and the enemies stood around a little bit in that demo too. So like now you start to mix it in with some of these bots and and we talked about it a little bit earlier. I think the foundation for it's never been better. It's just they got to get all the peripheral stuff.
The more I play the
By the way,
multiplayer, the more excited I get for the single player.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, I was gonna say, it's crazy how much of a fuss people made about Craig and his face, which was a texture, and now we're doing like the exact opposite. We're staring at these textures like these are amazing. There's so much, there's so much detail put into this, right? So it just goes to show, anyone worried about Craig, don't be. And you shouldn't have been worried a year ago, and you shouldn't be worried today either. You know what I mean? That's game development, right?
I think a lot of the worry last year was when it was
releasing last year.
scheduled for launch. Yeah.
Fair enough. But
During
even
the
then,
pandemic.
if a game, we all know games come together in the last months, right? I only had to read half of Flippin' Schreier's book to figure that out, right? The last 3-4 months is when everything comes together, the magic comes in, and you have literally developers going, we didn't think we'd be able to do it.
IGN's greatest game of all time, God of War 2018, they thought it was going to be a flop 4 months before it released, and then it came out and it was absolutely gorgeous and a great game.
So like in general, judging a game so strictly, like it's one thing to be like, oh, the graphics are kind of okay. I hope they get better. Blah blah blah. It's another thing to pinpoint, stop, and Craig everything, right? I think that's a verb now. And I feel like in general, any enthusiast in the gaming space should realize that, right? Should be like, hey, not everything we see is flipping 2-minute vertical slice that's been polished as all hell more than anything else the game's ever had, you know? Because that's used to be how it's done. Now it's much better if we focus on just making the damn game, showing it when it's ready to be shown.
Well, and we've had the fortune that we've been able to talk to devs and kind of get the idea.
Yeah.
You know, one of my buddies I play with is, is a dev, and he said that last year. He says, most games, I think I've heard Grubb say this too on his show. And people who talk to devs know that most games do come together in the last 6 months, especially if it's if they're rebuilding the engine. They're doing anything, if something about the engine's newer, if you're not just taking assets from a game that came out 3 years ago and just kind of, rebuilding off of those, generally you're going to see these things come together late. And always, this is something that I think is worth calling out too, though, because you make a good point. It's not what they're asking here, but it does somewhat tie in. When we talked about the complaints of the games from 343 in the past, it's usually been design issues. It was design issues around Halo 4's multiplayer.
Yeah.
It was design issues around Halo 5's campaign, the story, just the way everything kind of came together didn't. Technically, they've always been proficient. And that's one thing to kind of mention. I've been putting together an article on this for a while. I've been kind of hesitant to release it because there is so much, anxiety around it. It's almost like you come out fanboyish talking about it. But the truth is that, 343, the one thing they've done well is be able to release games that are not like buggy, right? They're buggy, they're polished for what they are. They have had questionable design decisions. And I would suspect that with its delay being over a year, it wasn't all for the graphics, because that's usually a lot of that polish comes in the last 6 months. They probably tweak some of the design aspects of it, understating. So that's what, some of the things that I feel good about. But again, that is kind of adjacent to the question, but it is worth mentioning because we are getting close to that. And I think there is good reasons to be even if you're cautiously optimistic about what we're going to see. But all right, I'll let Jesse go ahead and read the next question.
From good old Collingwood. Hello, Halo followers. We know a great deal of the multiplayer part of the game and not so much of the campaign. However, something that perhaps hasn't been brought out because of the light of recent gameplay is the story of Halo Infinite. Remarkably, Halo holds a unique position in gaming that many other IPs don't have, a deep and rich lore and legend, something that's shared by things like Star Wars or Star Trek. So, what do you think will happen in Halo Infinite? We know that the game will take place on Zeta Halo, that Cortana apparently is still on the loose, and Master Chief will be fighting the Banished. We know that the pilot may be Master Chief's main sidekick, but what about Locke in Fireteam Osiris? Will Blue Team return? I would be interested to hear what the You Had Me at Halo team think might happen and what they would like to see happen in Halo Infinite and where the Halo saga goes in the future. I'll sit this one out. I
thought that was you answering the question.
No, I know. I read the leak, so I read the leak so that I could properly moderate the forum. So I'm not going to say a word, but I'll wink if any of you say the right thing.
So what I'm looking forward to is the fact that since there's no Promethean weapons, we wipe them out in the first scene of the game, so we don't have to fight them anymore. No, but seriously, he makes some some really good points. There is a lot of opportunities to really explore the universe. I think that it seems like 343 is really going to go back to the core spirit of Halo CE for this. They've said that before, and I think this is going to be a much more focused story with some mystery things that they'll probably leave hanging. That's my prediction. I haven't read the leak, so I have no clue. And I think it is going to be try to make it more personal, make it about Chief. Long term, though, I do hope they start exploring some of those characters, because I think on paper, like it kind of bothered me, like how they brought in some of these characters that probably had potential, like a Locke. The problem with that is they just never really built the writing for him, or the building him up as a character was a fail in Halo 5. And I think they need to go back and try to get some of those right, because I think you can maybe retcon some of that in some ways, you know,
Yeah.
by just giving him more, because from what I understand, he does have a little bit more of an interesting backstory, which just never really explored in the games. And in the games, it just seems like, oh, he's just another, you know, machine. But really, you know, there's a lot more to that character. And I think trying to explore some of the, I think for Halo to kind of mature, it's not necessarily about it getting like, you know, bloodier. It's more about it trying, you know, as our audience has grown up over these years, 20 years of Halo, I think it's starting to start to develop the characters more, try to like explore where they are in this universe, things like that, and you know, their families, what happened, like what's driving them to do what they do. So that to me, that's in gaming, that's the one thing that you know, that gaming does that I think movies struggle sometimes with, is that you can kind of feel a little bit more like you're with that character. In you know, you're not pulled as far away. So that's something that I think just in general, Microsoft's, you know, studios going forward, that's an opportunity they can fill that they couldn't last generation. So I think Halo, to his point, is a diverse universe that offers that opportunity, and it's something I hope they start to take it. If they don't go all in on it now, I hope with some of the stuff that comes out, the DLCs, they start exploring that. But what about you, So?
Okay, I get it. The people who lack of co-op at launch, it sucks. You play Halo like that all the time. The silver lining, and to be honest, the first thing I thought of when the news came out was, hey, that means this is going to be a pretty chief-centric story, a pretty solo-centric story again. You know what I mean? It's not going to be Halo 5, it's reliant on 4 fire team members playing together, blah, blah, blah. So gameplay-wise, of course, that means it's focused on the solo player again, which is a good thing in my opinion. Lore-wise, it also means you're probably playing just a chief, maybe a few Marines, maybe you'll interact with some Spartans here and there, blah, blah, blah. And I'm interested in that. I loved Halo 4. It was a really intimate story, and I'm hoping Infinite has resemblance of that. The only question marks for me is Infinite's campaign going to finish Chief's story in the game? Is it going to end, and are the next expansions going to be on ODST or other teams or blah, 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 that kind of stuff? Or are we going to get like a Master Chief story, and then like another non-Master Chief story, and then a Master Chief story again? You know what I mean? Like, I'm curious how they're going to handle that. That's my kind of like my question mark there.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just making sure that you were done.
Yeah, no, like, that's about all I can really say. Yeah.
For me, like, it's like multiple things where I hope it brings back that sense of discovery and mystery.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about it before, where Halo 1 had that in spades. Halo 4 had it in moments. You know, especially when you first land on Requiem.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been there for a lot of the Halo games. And I'm hoping, you know, brings back that sense of mystery and discovery. I'm hoping that they strike a fine balance where the core story does not rely, I want to say at all, but that might be too optimistic or too asking for too much. I as little of the core story relying on external media or external sources. Like I want it to be self-contained, so that you can not have to read any books and still completely understand what's going on. And they can take the opportunity, I think, to have Easter eggs, to have things more for people that are up to date with the lore, with like the side stuff. You know, like with Zeta Halo and the history that's there, there's a lot of opportunity to have a lot of that background lore and story where it's additional and optional, but not required to really understand what's going on in the core narrative.
I think you're gonna get that. Like, having read the so-called prequel book to Infinite, it's barely about Infinite. You know what I mean? Like,
it's funny. The actual So Shadows of Reach was definitely a prequel book, but the actual direct prequel book is not coming out until next April. The one that's all about the right after the Banished blow them all up. However that ends up happening on the ring. It follows like a group of Spartans before the story, and I don't know. The leaks that hit are not comprehensive. They give you the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story, but like how it's going to actually go and who you see and all this stuff, no idea. So I have no clue if those Spartans show up. The weapon, the Cortan that we saw is something easily explained without having to read the book that contained her. Like I think you could enjoy 4 without the books. It just needed to have the cutscenes of the terminals play for you every time. It didn't have to be something you found, because that could explain enough where you understood everything, and then the books just added on to it. But the terminals being these weird things you had to find, and then they pulled you out into a different app, sucked. That was
one of my big issues.
Better implementation of the lore surrounding the story. You can have more stuff that ties to books. You have to explain it in the game too.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, Mike, the existence of that second book, that it's coming out so many months after Infinite, makes me think that the story of Infinite is going to be pretty self-contained. You were going to get some backstory stuff here and there. I'm sure, in fact, when they revealed that book, they mentioned that, like, if you pay attention to some of the audio logs when you play Infinite or whatnot, or some things you can find, you'll find hints and connections to this book. So it's almost the opposite situation. Where
that's actually good.
Yeah, to get more about the book, you play the game instead. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's awesome. That's the way I think it should be. And even because I read the prequel book that you guys are talking about, it was a good book, but even then, it doesn't even really directly explain everything. Everything is kind of hinted around, and it does do a good job like building up to it. Like it does help set the tone or the stakes regarding like the Banished, and and regarding the whole like other characters like Locke, I'm hoping that, because we've talked about this in past shows, where I think it would be a great direction to take, that you have your core. Let's assume that Infinite really is this 10-year platform, this whatever you want to call it, this client. You have your core story that it launches with, and then in between development of the next main story expansion, let's say, you have these smaller, tight-knit, kind of ODST-ish. Maybe not with that scope, but similar. Because ODST was made with like 30 people or something in 18 months. Like, it was really small, really focused. And, have like a small team make these mini expansions that bridge the gaps between the larger story expansions. If they did, and then that also, because I think with the larger story expansions, like to touch on what you were talking about, Ursula, I think I would prefer they focus on the Master Chief, but then on these smaller bridge expansions, they can then take that opportunity to have like either ODST or Blue Team or Locke.
Some of the different groups that are like, because you can make those smaller ones more quickly reusing campaign assets from the main one. So if you've got stories that are based on the ring that are smaller to start with, and then, say the way the game ends or something, it ends up going somewhere else in the future that is next gen only, to keep file sizes down and everything like that, then you can have stories that use those assets as you move forward. Like, you got the big ass expansions that take Chief to either different places of the ring, or even like different biomes of the ring and different stuff. And then that just opens up all these different things you can do for adding in more campaign content, more maps for multiplayer, because, they can pull from those to rebuild things at a much faster pace. And the way their lighting is, it's all dynamic, so they don't have to like, that's always one of the worst things with the old engine and with Destiny, is how unbelievably long it can take to make any changes on a map. And a lot of the things that they did for Infinite in the Slipspace engine were based around, we want to be able to make a lot of content fast. We don't want to have to wait forever to make stuff. We'd rather worry about writing and tuning than the act of making the level, having it take forever. Because that's why you don't get strikes in Destiny very often, because even if they just want to change up already existing areas, any changes they make to that end up taking an incredibly long time to render, and it ends up
to bake the stuff in the environment,
and
stuff
it breaks other parts of the game. They can add a mechanic in one map that completely messes up another planet that was tied to something they changed on that other And that was the thing with Slip Space is it was all about speed and making high quality content without, just being able to focus on getting more and more stuff out because they did want that live service aspect, which is going to rely upon good quality content that doesn't take forever to come out. So
right, they can't take 2 years to come out with the next big drop of content.
Exactly.
Right? It has to. You probably have to have something every year, and maybe more than that, because you look at even like Sea of Thieves, where they have multiple teams working on things, and turning stuff every 6 months sometimes, and or at least for a while they had drops within the year, and I would expect that this is much bigger team, and that was really a lot of and a lot of people don't probably know that, but a lot of the development was about the engine. It really
it hasn't been 5 or it hasn't been 6 years of making this
Mike,
game.
what was that look for, Mike?
No, nothing.
Okay,
nothing.
But
Nothing.
but yeah, I mean there's a lot
I
of
don't
time.
necessarily agree with the engine part. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Based on conversations I've had.
Oh yeah, with the okay,
Yeah.
All right, well, cool.
I mean that does play a part. That does play a factor. But
there were obviously some issues with management with all the turnover and everything. It's not hard to guess on some of it as well.
Yeah.
Not having to say it explicitly.
We'll move on from that topic. Did we want to get? I think there was one above that from Adam the XboxEra. I think it might be a real quick answer. He said, "Sorry, don't know if it was already revealed, but will there be a mode where everyone has their custom starting weapons loadout in Infinite? For example, a TDM with custom loadout for every player, like other traditional FPS multiplayers like Call of Duty, Battlefield."
I doubt it.
Probably say, doubt it.
Maybe Forge lets you do something like that where you can make loadouts and people choose them. I think Forge would have that, but as far as base arena, I doubt it.
I hope not, rather.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah.
There'll be certain weapon starts, but not
Yes.
They have PTSD from whatever happened in Halo 4 multiplayer. They're not going to.
I mean, already they saw people say, infinite weapon vehicle drops. What? And it's like, no. It's just aesthetic, guys. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's just any sign that brings people back to that. Just got get some smashing their monitors and OLED TVs. But we doubt it. But with custom stuff, you just never know what's possible, right? So it's
for their stuff, I'd say no. For custom stuff, I bet you Forge lets you do stuff like that in some way.
All right. So did we cover all the questions, or was there anything on Twitter?
That was him. No, nothing on Twitter.
Anything on the forums?
Those were the forums.
No, we got.
Oh, those were the forums. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Cool. All right. So I think it's going to be time for us to start to wrap up the show. So we got through everything, and we talked about a lot today. And again, want to appreciate, say thanks to the chat for coming. Thanks for everybody who submitted questions.
Awesome.
Yeah, and hopefully we get to, start seeing, if we haven't seen you already in the community night, come and join us. I think these are going to be a lot of fun. It's just going to get, they're going to be, you can tell, I have a gut feeling that some of the energy that's coming around this, there's going to be those game nights, those community game nights that were so prevalent during Halo 2 and Halo 3 days. You never know if it's going to meet that level, but there's going to be a lot bigger base. There's a lot more competition, but there's a bigger base, and I do think that the foundation is here for that, and the excitement seems to be around that. So I'm looking forward to.
Your webcam is enormous. Thank you, OBS.
Oh, okay. Well,
you can be Kage. There we go.
All right, guys. So let's go ahead and wrap it up on that note before anything else technically goes wrong before the end of the show. I think we've set a record on technical problems. Why don't you sign us off?
If you've seen a Fluted Coop episode, we have not set a record.
Oh, okay.
But okay, yeah. For those of you watching, I feel like we had quite a few new watchers in this episode. If you just stumbled upon this show, check our channel out, XboxEra. We're a small group of fans that wanted to make a community for the fans. For the fans, by the fans, of the fans, I think is the last line. Either way, check us out. As Jesse said, we do have a Halo Infinite community night tomorrow. Considering it's late in the day and the first playtest should be like 1 o'clock, the servers should be fine.
That is October 1st for anyone watching this later. So you might have already missed it.
Yes. October 1st, so Friday, October 1st, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. what's 8 plus 5? I don't know, what, 12? No, 1 a.m. 1 a.m. BST, blah blah blah. You can you do the math conversions. Check us out if you can't play. Check us out on Twitch. It should be a fun time. This is the 28th episode of this podcast. We also run, although it's only 2 episodes, so we have a more lore story, book focused podcast. We did the 2nd episode. It's been like 2 weeks now, I think, maybe a week and a half. If you're interested at all in the very first Halo novel and what we thought of it, reading it again, we had someone read it for the first time. Check that out. It's pretty cool. Also, we didn't mention it before, but please, if you can, record your clips, send it over to us. We want to make a fun little montage.
Yeah. We'll start playing them on. Start playing some of the cool clips you guys send us.
Yeah.
Playing on.
Yeah, and you can email them to youhadme@halo@xboxera.com. A link or the actual little MP4 file, either works.
You had meet Halo at XboxEra.com. Pretty simple to pretty simple to memorize. But we want to involve you guys more and more, the community. I mean, more and more with us as we do this. So please send them over, even if it's something not that exciting, like you got repulsed off a map or something. I don't know. Record the last 15 seconds, 30 seconds, doesn't matter. Send it over to us. Even send us the link on xboxdvr.com. Whatever, we'll find it. We'll take care of it. Create something for you guys. Other than that, if you enjoy us, please check out our Patreon. Every little bit helps. You know what I mean? We're a really small channel. So if you don't want to do that, just let people know about us, right?
It's patreon.com/XboxEra.
Yeah. Trying to grow organically.
No, it actually is true. We would grow a lot faster if we used clickbait and whatnot. Like if I had a title for this to be like Halo Infinite big team battle concerned with like a question mark and a bunch of arrows and crap, we'd get a lot more views. But that's okay, right? We want to do what we want to do, and we want to do it well. And yeah, thank you for watching.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great
All right,
weekend.
I'm going to mute desktop audio this time so you guys won't keep coming through. Bye, everyone.